Life will test you. It will push you to your limits. You will face storms that rattle the foundations of who you think you are, setbacks that make the ground beneath you feel uncertain, and moments that shake you to your very core. But in those moments, when the noise is deafening and the pressure is suffocating, one thing, just one, will decide your fate: your ability to remain calm. Because a calm mind is not a weak mind. It's the sharpest blade you will ever carry. A calm mind sees solutions where others see only problems. A calm mind turns obstacles into stepping stones. And in the words of the Stoics, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Think about it. Most people crumble under pressure, not because the challenge was unbeatable, but because they let fear and chaos take the wheel. But when you train your mind to be still, when you refuse to let emotion cloud your vision, you rise above the storm. You see clearly, you act with purpose, you move with precision, and in that stillness, you become unshakable. That is the power we're going to unlock together today. If you believe that mastering your mind is the first step toward mastering your life, then consider subscribing as a commitment to yourself. Let this be the moment you decide to think deeper, live stronger, and walk the Stoic path toward unbreakable inner peace. Life doesn't tap you on the shoulder and say, "Get ready, here it comes." It just hits. Sometimes it's a slow build, a creeping storm you can see in the distance, and sometimes it's a sudden wave that crashes without warning. You find yourself standing in the middle of it, unsure which way is forward, backward, or down. The ground feels like it's moving under your feet. Everything familiar becomes strange. And in those moments, the question isn't whether you'll face the storm, because you will. The question is whether you can keep your mind steady while it rages around you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's in that space, between the chaos outside and the clarity inside, where the outcome of your life is decided. Calmness isn't something you need only when things are peaceful. Anyone can be composed when the air is still. The real test is whether you can remain calm when the air turns sharp, when voices are raised, when the future becomes uncertain. Most people believe calm is just a personality trait, something you're either born with or not. But that's not true. Calm is a skill, a muscle, and just like your body, your mind grows stronger the more you train it. It's not about ignoring what's happening or pretending it doesn't hurt. It's about keeping your head when others lose theirs. Carl Jung once observed, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." In the heat of a crisis, the choice to become steady instead of scattered changes everything. We live in a world that conditions us to react instantly. Messages pop up and we reply without thinking. A comment stings and we shoot one back. Someone cuts us off and our temper leaps before reason can catch up. Reaction feels natural because it's fast, but it's also dangerous. It's like handing the steering wheel of your life to whatever just startled you. And once you're reacting, you're no longer in control. The moment is controlling you. But when you respond, you take the wheel back. You create a gap between what happens and what you do next, and in that gap lies your power. Think about the last time you let your emotions run the show. Maybe you said something you didn't mean. Maybe you made a choice in frustration that you later regretted. In the moment, it probably felt justified. Emotions have a way of convincing us that they're the truth. But when the dust settled, clarity came, and with it, the realization that you could have handled it differently. That's why the mind must be trained before the storm arrives. Because when the pressure is on, you will default to your training. If you haven't trained your mind to pause, to breathe, to think before acting, The chaos will decide for you. The body has its own way of betraying us when we're under stress. Heart rate climbs, breath shortens, muscles tense. The mind senses danger and slips into survival mode, shutting down the rational part of the brain in favor of instinct. That's why fear and panic feel so overwhelming. They literally change the way you think. But here's the truth, you can reverse that process. The simplest and most overlooked tool you have is your breath. Slow it down and you slow your heart. Slow your heart and you steady your thoughts. Even a few deep breaths can remind your nervous system that you are not in immediate danger, that you are safe enough to think clearly. It's the same technique Navy divers, elite athletes and surgeons use in high-pressure moments. But calming your breath is just the beginning. The mind must also be taught to see differently. When you see an obstacle as a problem, it feels heavy, immovable, final. But when you see it as a challenge, something changes. A challenge is something to engage with, to overcome, to learn from. The obstacle might be the same, but your relationship to it transforms. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This isn't just philosophy, it's practical survival. The moment you shift how you frame an event, you take away its ability to control you. And yet reframing doesn't mean lying to yourself. It doesn't mean painting a disaster in bright colors and pretending it's a gift. It's about being honest with what's in front of you, and then choosing the angle that makes you stronger rather than weaker. When something goes wrong, instead of "why me?" you ask, "What can this teach me?" The first question makes you a victim. The second makes you a student of life. That shift alone can turn despair into determination. Thomas Edison, after thousands of failed attempts at creating the light bulb, famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." The facts didn't change. His frame did. Of course, this kind of thinking doesn't appear out of nowhere. You can't expect to step into a high-pressure moment and suddenly be calm if you've spent every day before that reacting to every little thing. Mental steadiness is built in the quiet moments, in small daily choices. It's built when you decide to let go of a small annoyance instead of feeding it. It's built when you choose to listen before speaking. It's built when you catch yourself rushing and take a breath instead. Each time you do, you lay another brick in the foundation of your composure. Training your mind isn't a single habit, it's a collection of them. Meditation teaches you to notice your thoughts without getting lost in them. Visualization teaches you to see yourself succeeding before the moment arrives. Physical exercise teaches you to endure discomfort and keep going. Reading expands your understanding of the world and sharpens your thinking. Each habit strengthens a different part of your mental armor. And when they're combined, they prepare you to face what you can't predict. Your environment matters too. Spend enough time around panicked people and their energy becomes yours. Surround yourself with people who think clearly and their steadiness will steady you. Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Choose the people who transform you for the better, who remind you of your own ability to stand calm in the storm, because the storm will come. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will. And when it does, you will either be swept up in its wind or stand unmoved in its center. That choice isn't made in the moment. It's made now, in the quiet hours, in the daily discipline of training your mind to be calm. You do it not because life will be gentle, but because it won't. And when it's not, you'll be ready. A calm mind has a way of cutting through the fog that blinds everyone else. When fear grips the crowd, when noise fills the air, when confusion makes it hard to tell left from right, the calm mind can still see the path. It notices details that panic would erase. It catches opportunities others miss because they're too busy reacting to the chaos. Calm doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you refuse to be ruled by what you feel. It's the difference between the archer who shoots in haste and misses, and the one who breathes, waits for the wind to shift, and releases with precision. In moments where decisions matter most, speed without clarity is a trap. Calmness gives you the clarity to act at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right way. The reason calmness holds so much power is that it changes the rules of the game. When others are reacting to the surface, the calm mind looks beneath it. It sees the root of the problem, not just its symptoms. Carl Jung once wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." Panic looks outward, desperate to control circumstances. Calm looks inward, determined to master the self. That mastery allows you to step outside the storm's rhythm and create your own. Suddenly, you're not just surviving the moment, you're shaping it. This isn't about moving slowly or hesitating when it's time to act. Calmness is not the absence of movement, it's the presence of control. It's the warrior who stands still while the battlefield swirls, waiting for the one opening that will change everything. The world often mistakes loudness for strength, but in truth, strength is found in the steady hand, the measured word, the unshaken gaze. When you remain calm in moments where everyone else is losing balance, you stand out, not because you tried to, but because steadiness has become rare, and what is rare becomes valuable. Calmness also protects you from making decisions you can't take back. We've all felt the regret of words spoken too quickly or actions taken in a rush of emotion. In those moments, the mind isn't thinking, it's defending, attacking, escaping. The calm mind doesn't escape the emotion, but it learns to let the first wave pass before making a move. It knows that even in urgency, there's power in a pause. That pause is where wisdom lives. It's where you can weigh not only what you want to do, but what will serve you best in the long run. Think of the difference between a candle and a lighthouse. A candle flickers in the slightest breeze, its light fragile and short-lived. A lighthouse stands through storms, guiding ships without faltering. Calmness turns you from the candle into the lighthouse. The sea may rage, but you remain steady, casting light where it's needed most. In a panicked state, your mind will search for safety in the wrong places, quick fixes, impulsive actions, someone else's lead. In a calm state, you become the source of stability for yourself and, often, for others. The truth is, calmness isn't just an advantage in moments of crisis. It's an advantage in every area of life. In negotiation, the calm person listens more than they speak, and in that listening, they gain the upper hand. In relationships, the calm person hears the pain beneath the words and responds to that, instead of reacting to the surface sting. In personal growth, the calm person can face uncomfortable truths without running from them. As Seneca once said, "No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they do not have, and to cheerfully put to good use what they do have." Calmness gives you that power, the ability to meet reality as it is and work with it instead of fighting against it. This kind of composure doesn't mean life will be free from chaos. It means that chaos loses its ability to dictate your choices. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to sail through them. And when others see you navigate storms without losing your way, they begin to trust you. Not because you claim to have all the answers, but because you refuse to be swept away. Calmness earns respect without asking for it. It turns you into the person people look to when things get uncertain. Of course, the challenge is that calmness doesn't come naturally when pressure rises. Instinct urges us to act fast, to fix things, to fight or flee. That's why the ability to remain steady is so powerful, because it's not instinctive, it's intentional. It's a choice made over and over again until it becomes part of who you are. Every moment you resist the pull of panic, you strengthen the muscle of control. Every time you breathe through the impulse to react, you prove to yourself that you are not at the mercy of the moment. When you realize that calmness is a skill, not a gift, it changes how you approach challenges. Instead of waiting for life to throw you into a storm and hoping you'll figure it out, you start training in the quiet. You learn to pause in everyday moments, before replying to a message, before voicing a frustration, before making a decision you can't reverse. These small practices add up, so when the real pressure comes, your mind knows what to do. In the end, calmness is real power because it's freedom. Freedom from being pushed and pulled by every shift in circumstance. Freedom from becoming someone you don't recognize in moments of stress. Freedom to choose your next step instead of having it chosen for you by fear. And in that freedom, you find a strength that no amount of force or noise can ever match. You become the steady ground in an unsteady world, and from that ground you can move anywhere you choose. We've all been there. That sudden surge of anger that tightens your chest, the rush of fear that makes your thoughts scatter, the wave of panic that demands you do something, anything, right now. In those moments you feel like you're in control because you're acting. But later, when the moment has passed and the emotions have cooled, you see it for what it was. Not action, but reaction. And reaction often comes with a cost far greater than we realize in the moment. Words spoken without thought can leave cracks in relationships that never fully heal. Rash decisions made in a fog of frustration can close doors you didn't even know you wanted to walk through. Sometimes those moments cost you your peace. Other times they cost you your future. The danger of letting emotions take over isn't that emotions are bad. They're not. They are part of being human. They give color to life, depth to experience. But when they take the wheel, reason is pushed into the back seat. You stop choosing your direction and start being driven by impulses that might not have your best interests in mind. Fear convinces you to run when you need to stand still. Anger urges you to fight when the wiser choice is to walk away. Impatience tells you to force things before they're ready. What's tricky is that in the heat of the moment, emotions don't feel like noise. They feel like truth. When someone insults you, the anger feels justified. When something threatens you, the fear feels protective. But not everything that feels true is wise. Emotion gives you the energy to act, but without the guidance of calm thought, that energy can turn destructive. It's like having a powerful river with no banks to guide it. It floods everything in its path. Many people have lost more to their own unchecked reactions than to the challenges life has thrown at them. It's worth remembering that the most important moments in life often leave no time for do-overs. An opportunity presents itself, and you either step toward it or you don't. A relationship hits a breaking point, and what you say in that moment either opens a door or closes it forever. One careless email sent in frustration can undo months of trust. One outburst in the wrong setting can reshape the way people see you. These are the hidden costs of letting emotions lead, the kind you don't see until they've already been paid. And there's another layer. Every time you give in to emotional impulse, you reinforce the habit. You teach your mind that this is how you handle stress. The more you do it, the more automatic it becomes. Before long, it's not just certain situations that trigger you. It's almost everything. You start living on edge, ready to react before you've even thought about whether the situation requires a reaction at all. This is why the Stoics placed so much value on self-mastery. As Seneca put it, "No man is free who is a slave to himself." When you're at the mercy of your emotions, you can't claim to be in control of your life. But there's a flip side to this truth, and it's one of the most empowering realizations you can have. Every time you resist that impulse, every time you pause before speaking, take a breath before acting, you're breaking the pattern. You're teaching your mind a new way to operate. You're proving to yourself that you can feel something deeply without being controlled by it. The power isn't in never feeling anger, fear, or panic. It's in refusing to let them dictate the terms of your life. The cost of letting emotions take over can also be invisible at first. Maybe no one calls you out. Maybe the damage is subtle, a quiet loss of trust, a shift in how someone includes you, an opportunity that doesn't come your way again. You may never even know what was lost. But whether or not you see it, those costs are real. They accumulate, and if left unchecked, they can shape the entire trajectory of your life. That's why calmness under pressure isn't just a nice trait to have. It's a form of protection. It guards your relationships, your reputation, your future. It ensures that when you make a move, it's intentional, not just emotional. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That power to revoke is the essence of self-control. It's the decision to see the emotion for what it is, information, not command, and then choose what to do with it. In the end, the cost of letting emotions take over is far greater than the temporary discomfort of holding back. The momentary satisfaction of getting it off your chest fades quickly, but the consequences can linger for years. And here's the irony. The more you learn to stay calm, the more influence you actually have. People listen to those who can stay composed. They trust them. They look to them in moments of uncertainty. The very thing emotions promise, power, is better achieved through their mastery, not their indulgence. So the next time you feel the heat rise, remember what's really at stake. Not just your pride in that moment, but the opportunities, the trust and the relationships that can only be protected by your calm. You won't always get it perfect, and you don't need to. What matters is that you choose, as often as you can, to keep your mind steady when your emotions want to take the lead. Because when you do, you're not just saving yourself from regret, you're building the kind of life that can withstand whatever comes. When fear takes over, something profound happens inside your brain. It's not just a feeling, it's a shift in the way your entire system operates. In moments of perceived danger, your brain's alarm system, the amygdala, sounds off like a siren. That signal races through your body, flooding it with adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormones designed to keep you alive. In an instant, your heart pounds faster to pump blood to your muscles, your breathing quickens, and your vision sharpens on what you think is the threat. This ancient survival mechanism once saved our ancestors from predators, but in modern life, it can be triggered by a harsh email, a tense conversation, or an unexpected challenge. The body reacts as though your life depends on it, even when the danger is not physical at all. In those moments, something else happens. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning, problem-solving, and long-term planning, begins to shut down. It's as though the wise leader of your mind has been pushed aside, and the most primitive part has seized control. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is what he meant in practice. When fear hijacks your brain, it drives your behavior without asking for permission and without considering the consequences. You stop choosing your actions, you start reacting to everything. The shift from choice to reaction is subtle but powerful. You may believe you're still in control because you're acting, But in reality, those actions are being decided by survival instincts, not conscious thought. This is why people say or do things in the heat of the moment that they later regret. The decision wasn't made from a place of clarity, it was made from a place of urgency. The brain was in fight, flight, or freeze mode, where the only goal is to end the perceived threat as quickly as possible. The trouble is, in life's everyday challenges, that threat might be a misunderstanding, a delay, or a difficult decision, things that can't be solved by instinct alone. When survival mode takes over, time itself can feel distorted. Seconds stretch into what feels like minutes. The mind becomes hyper-focused on what's immediately in front of you, and everything else fades into the background. This tunnel vision can be helpful if you're crossing a busy street and need to react quickly to a car you didn't see. But in emotional situations, an argument with a partner, a high-stakes meeting, an important choice, tunnel vision blinds you to the bigger picture. The mind becomes obsessed with winning the moment rather than succeeding in the long run. Fear is persuasive because it feels real. The rush of adrenaline makes you believe you must act now, that there's no time to think. But most of the time, there is time, if you create it. The problem is that in the grip of fear, the brain's chemistry convinces you there isn't. This is why people who have trained themselves to pause, to breathe, and to slow down their thinking seem so composed under pressure. They're not immune to fear. They've just built a bridge between the primitive brain and the thinking brain, so the signal doesn't cut them off from reason entirely. And here's where the science meets wisdom. Practices like deep breathing, mindfulness, and deliberate pausing aren't just calming, they're physiological interventions. Slow, deep breaths send signals through the vagus nerve to the brain, telling it that the body is safe. This begins to reduce the flood of stress hormones and reactivates the prefrontal cortex. In other words, you're not just calming down in a vague sense, you're literally restoring your brain's capacity to think clearly. The challenge is that most of us aren't taught to recognize the moment when survival mode kicks in. We notice only after we've snapped at someone, made a rash decision, or walked away from something important. But with awareness, you can begin to feel the early signs. Your breath getting shallow, your shoulders tightening, your thoughts racing. These are the signals that the primitive brain is about to take over. And in that instant, you have a choice. Let it run the show or intervene before control is lost. Think of it like driving a car down a steep hill. When you first feel the speed picking up, you still have the chance to tap the brakes and stay in control. But if you wait too long, the car will be going so fast that stopping without crashing becomes nearly impossible. Fear works the same way. The earlier you respond to it with intentional action, slowing your breath, grounding your thoughts, the easier it is to keep your thinking brain online. Wait too long, and you'll be swept up in the momentum of instinct. And it's not just fear. Anger, frustration, even excitement can trigger similar responses. Anytime your body senses a high-stakes moment, it prepares you to react quickly, which means it starts to bypass the slower, more deliberate parts of your mind. The irony is that in most of life's important moments, quick isn't what you need, clarity is. That clarity comes only from keeping your reasoning mind involved in the process. The science of losing control reveals why staying calm isn't just a matter of willpower, it's a matter of biology. Once you understand how your brain works under stress, you stop blaming yourself for feeling overwhelmed and start focusing on strategies that keep you steady. You begin to see calmness not as a personality trait you either have or don't have, but as a skill you can build, a skill rooted in the ability to manage the handoff between instinct and thought. Ultimately, the goal isn't to eliminate your emotional responses. Fear can protect you, anger can alert you to injustice, Excitement can drive you toward opportunity, but these emotions should inform your choices, not dictate them. When you can feel the rush without losing the reins, you unlock a kind of power that isn't swayed by the rise and fall of the moment. You become the steady presence in a world that's constantly shifting. And that steadiness, born of understanding your own mind, becomes the foundation for everything else you achieve. Reaction feels fast. It feels alive. In the heat of the moment, it even feels right. Someone says something sharp, and the words leap from your mouth before you even register them. A decision lands on your lap, and your hand moves before your mind catches up. There's a fleeting rush in that instant, like you've done something, like you've taken control. But in truth, the opposite has happened. In those moments, control has already slipped away. You've surrendered it to the very thing that provoked you. You've let the outside world dictate your next move, and now you're following its lead instead of your own. The trap is subtle because it hides in the very speed that makes it feel powerful. Reaction convinces you that faster is stronger, but faster is often weaker because it bypasses the part of you that weighs, measures, and decides with purpose. It's the mind's equivalent of grabbing the first tool you see without checking if it's the right one, and once you've swung it, you can't take it back. Life is full of moments designed to provoke you, not always intentionally. Sometimes it's just the nature of living around other human beings. But every provocation is an invitation to give up control. The more you accept those invitations, the more you live at the mercy of other people's moods, opinions, and mistakes. It becomes a chain reaction. Someone's bad day becomes your bad day. Someone's panic becomes your panic. Before long, your state of mind is no longer your own. It's just a reflection of whatever you've been exposed to. The cost isn't just emotional, it's strategic. Reaction narrows your vision. It traps you in the moment, obsessed with the immediate hit, winning the argument, proving the point, defending yourself at the expense of the bigger picture. You might win the skirmish but lose the war. You might silence someone in the moment but lose their trust for years. And the worst part? You might never even realize what's been lost because reaction is too busy looking forward to the next move to look back at the damage left behind. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Reaction skips that understanding entirely. It doesn't give you space to ask, "Why does this bother me? What is this really about?" It only knows that something has stirred you and demands you answer with equal force. But the things that provoke us most deeply often reveal more about us than about the person or situation in front of us. When you react without pause, you miss the chance to learn those lessons, and you set yourself up to repeat the same mistakes again and again. And yet, there's no denying that reaction feels good in the moment. That's what makes it dangerous. It scratches the itch instantly, giving you the illusion of resolution. But it's like drinking salt water when you're thirsty. It might seem to help at first, but it only leaves you worse off. The mind craves relief from discomfort, and reaction delivers it quickly. But real control doesn't come from doing what feels good immediately. It comes from doing what will serve you best in the long run. That's why the people who seem unshakable aren't necessarily the ones with no emotions. They're the ones who can feel the heat rising inside them and still choose their next step carefully. Consider how many moments in history have turned on the difference between reaction and response. Leaders who kept their composure in times of crisis steered their people towards survival. Those who acted rashly often steered them into disaster. The same principle applies on a personal level. Your life is shaped not just by what happens to you, but by how you meet it. A sharp comment can be met with a sharper one, or with silence that keeps the peace. A sudden problem can be met with panic, or with a calm plan that keeps you moving forward. These small decisions, made in moments you barely notice, accumulate into the story of your life. Reaction also invites manipulation. If someone knows exactly which buttons to press to get you to react, they can steer you anywhere they want. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how skilled, or how well-intentioned. If you're easy to provoke, you're easy to control. The ability to stay calm when others expect you to erupt is more than self-control. It's self-protection. It keeps you from being pulled into battles that aren't yours to fight, and from burning energy on things that don't deserve it. Building that habit takes practice. It starts with the smallest moments. Holding your tongue for a few extra seconds in a conversation, letting an email sit in drafts overnight before sending it, stepping outside for air instead of arguing in circles. Over time, these pauses become second nature. You begin to realize that not everything demands your immediate engagement, and not every fire is yours to put out. The more you practice, the more your mind learns that safety and power come from choice, not from speed. Reaction thrives in the absence of awareness, but once you start paying attention to your own patterns, you see it coming. You feel the spike in your chest, the rush in your head, and you know, this is the trap. You don't have to step into it. You can stand still, let the wave pass, and move with intention. This doesn't mean you never act. It means you act on your terms, in your time, for your reasons. And that's the kind of control that can't be taken from you. In the end, reaction offers nothing more than the illusion of strength. It's a quick flame that burns out as fast as it ignites. Response, the deliberate, measured choice, builds something lasting. It protects your peace, your relationships, your future. And every time you resist the urge to react without thought, you're reclaiming a little more of your life from the pull of chaos. That's the quiet power no one can hand you, and no one can take away once you've claimed it. There's a point in every heated moment where time feels like it's sprinting, where everything inside you insists you need to act right now. That's the point where most people fall into reaction. They let instinct steer them, letting the first surge of emotion dictate the next step. But there's another option, one that feels unnatural at first, yet changes everything. It's the choice to pause, to take one breath before doing anything, to give your mind the space to catch up to your feelings. That pause might be a second or two, but in that second, the chaos outside stops controlling you. You step out of its rhythm and into your own. Carl Jung once said, "The man who looks for a bridge between the conscious and unconscious will learn to be guided, not driven." A response is guided, a reaction is driven, and that difference can decide the outcome of your life's most critical moments. When you choose to respond instead of react, you stop pouring gasoline on the fire. You give yourself permission to think, not just about how to survive the moment, but how to shape it. In a world where people rush to speak, to post, to act, the person who waits just long enough to see clearly has the advantage. They're not trapped in the narrow tunnel vision that comes with panic or anger. They can see the whole field, the moving parts, the subtle openings that only appear when you're not blinded by urgency. It's the same principle that makes a skilled chess player pause before making their move. The best players aren't fast, they're precise. Pausing doesn't mean freezing. It's not about avoiding the decision or pretending the problem doesn't exist. It's about slowing down enough to make the decision yours. That single breath is often enough to keep you from saying the thing you can't unsay, from taking the step you can't take back. And in that breath, you remember that the real measure of control isn't speed, it's accuracy. Think of the times in your life when everything felt like it was burning down, arguments that spiraled, opportunities that slipped away, days where nothing seemed to go right. Now imagine how those moments might have turned out if you'd just stopped, even for a few seconds, before acting. That's the quiet power of response. It turns the moment into something you can work with instead of something you have to fight against. You may not control what comes your way, but you always control the first step you take toward it. That's what separates the person who gets pulled under from the one who stays afloat. This ability to respond is not something that appears magically in moments of crisis. It's built in the ordinary, everyday situations where the stakes seem small. You practice it when you choose not to reply to a message the moment you're annoyed. You practice it when you take a walk before confronting someone you're frustrated with. You practice it when you listen all the way through instead of interrupting to defend yourself. These small acts of restraint are like mental drills. They train your mind to recognize that gap between what happens and what you do, and to use it. The people who can think clearly when everything is on fire are not the ones who feel nothing. They feel it all: fear, frustration, uncertainty. But they've learned how to let those feelings inform them, not control them. They know that reacting in the heat of the moment almost always serves the moment, not the bigger picture. Responding, on the other hand, serves the goal, the principle, the future they're working toward. And the difference often comes down to one thing: discipline over impulse. There's also an energy shift that happens when you respond instead of react. Reaction tends to escalate. Someone raises their voice, you raise yours higher. Someone makes a sharp comment, you sharpen yours in return. This creates a loop where the situation feeds on itself until it spirals out of control. Response breaks that loop. It doesn't fuel the fire, it redirects it. You may not diffuse the tension immediately, but you stop adding to it. And in many cases, that's enough to start turning things around. When you think about the people you admire most in times of crisis, chances are they're not the ones who flailed wildly, even if they meant well. They're the ones who stayed composed, who chose their actions with intention, who spoke in a way that calmed instead of inflamed. This doesn't mean they were passive. It means they understood that a well-aimed move is worth far more than a flurry of thoughtless ones. They let the storm rage around them without letting it dictate their next step, and in doing so, they shaped the outcome in ways that a reaction never could. The beauty of response is that it builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Each time you choose to pause and think before acting, you prove to yourself that you are capable of holding steady in the face of pressure. Over time, this changes the way you see yourself. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who's at the mercy of life's chaos and start seeing yourself as someone who can navigate it. That self-trust is priceless because it means you don't have to fear the next challenge as much. You know you can handle it, not because it will be easy, but because you'll meet it on your own terms. In the end, choosing response over reaction is about reclaiming ownership of your mind. It's about refusing to let outside events decide who you are in the moment. It's the difference between being pushed by the current and steering your own course. And every time you practice it, you're not just handling a single moment better, you're building the kind of steady presence that shapes how people see you, how they rely on you, and how you see yourself. That's the real power, knowing that even when everything is on fire, you don't have to burn with it. You can stand in the heat, breathe, and decide. You can choose your words, your actions, and your direction with the kind of clarity that only comes from pausing long enough to see the whole picture. And in that choice, you stop being just another person caught in the chaos. You become the one who can change how it ends. In every field, in every era, the people who rise above the rest share a common skill that often goes unnoticed. It isn't always the most talent, the most resources, or even the most experience that determines who comes out on top. It's the ability to remain steady when the air is thick with tension and the outcome hangs by a thread. In sports, it's the player who sinks the final shot while the crowd roars and the clock runs out. In business, it's the leader who keeps their voice calm in a boardroom when everyone else is scrambling to make sense of the numbers. In history, it's the figure who makes a measured decision in a moment where panic could have altered the course of generations. This isn't luck, it's discipline, and it's earned long before the high-stakes moment arrives. Pressure has a way of revealing the truth about a person. When the stakes are high, all the polish and posturing fall away, leaving only what's been built deep inside. Carl Jung once wrote, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order." The people who thrive under pressure have learned to see that hidden order when others see only confusion. They don't ignore the chaos, they acknowledge it, then look beyond it. While others are pulled into the noise, they stay anchored to the signal, to the few key details that will decide the outcome. That ability doesn't just happen, it's forged through repeated exposure to challenge, and the conscious choice to keep breathing, thinking and moving forward when every instinct screams otherwise. Look at elite athletes. The difference between a champion and the rest often comes down to mental composure in critical moments. The sprinter who keeps perfect form in the last 10 meters, the tennis player who still goes for the line shot at match point. These are acts of trained calm. Their bodies know what to do, but it's their mind that keeps them from tightening up and making mistakes. They've learned that tension slows you down, both physically and mentally. By keeping their minds clear, they allow their training to take over, giving them the best chance to execute. That's not just skill, it's mastery over fear. The same applies in the world of business. Companies face make or break moments all the time. Market shifts, financial crises, sudden competition. In those moments, the leaders who can maintain composure are the ones who can rally their teams and adapt quickly. When everyone else is focused on the problem, they're already working on the solution. They know that panic spreads faster than any market trend, and if they let it into the room, it will cloud judgment and lead to bad decisions. History is full of stories where calm minds shaped the world. Winston Churchill, during the Second World War, speaking to his nation not with trembling fear, but with resolve, gave people a sense of steadiness when survival itself was in question. Abraham Lincoln, in the midst of a divided nation, was known for pausing before he spoke, weighing not just the immediate consequences, but the ripples that would spread for decades. These moments weren't free from fear. If anything, the weight of the decisions made them heavier, but by holding their ground mentally, they created clarity where there could have been chaos. There's a pattern here. Those who thrive under pressure don't wait until the pressure comes to practice. Their composure is the product of countless smaller tests, times when they chose patience over haste, understanding over assumption, silence over a poorly timed word. These habits stack over time, building a foundation strong enough to hold when the weight of the moment increases. They've trained themselves to act from intention, not impulse, which means that when the stakes are highest, they can trust themselves fully. Even outside the spotlight, this principle holds true. You don't have to be a general in a war or a CEO to face high-pressure moments. For some, it's the job interview that could change their career. For others, it's the difficult conversation that could make or break a relationship. In those moments, your ability to control your mind is the greatest advantage you have. Panic makes your thoughts race, your words stumble, your body language betray you. Calm allows you to listen fully, speak clearly, and choose your next step with purpose. It's not about pretending you don't feel the pressure. It's about refusing to let the pressure make the decisions for you. And here's the thing. Pressure doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you've been all along. If you've built the habit of steady thinking, if you've practiced holding back your first impulse, if you've learned to focus on what matters most, that's what will come out when things get hard. If you've allowed yourself to be pulled by every wave of emotion and every distraction, that's what will surface instead. This is why the calm you see in great performers isn't arrogance, it's preparation. It's the result of choosing, day after day, to master the mind so that when it matters most, the mind serves you instead of betraying you. Carl Jung also said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Under pressure, the mask comes off and the real you steps forward. The question is, will that version of you be ready? Will they be grounded enough to see through the noise, to act with precision, to hold their own when the moment is too big for most? The answer lies not in what you do when the spotlight is on, but in how you've prepared when no one was watching. Those who thrive under pressure carry a quiet confidence that's hard to miss. It's not the loud, showy kind. It's a steady presence that reassures everyone around them. They know that life will always have moments that test them, that throw them into situations where there's no room for panic. And because they've trained for it, they can meet those moments head-on, not with reckless speed, but with deliberate, decisive action. That's how games are won, deals are made, and history is shaped. Not in the absence of pressure, but in the mastery of it. When you understand this, you stop fearing pressure and start seeing it for what it is, an amplifier. It can magnify your weaknesses, but it can also magnify your strengths. The choice is yours. The people who win in those amplified moments are the ones who can keep their minds from drowning in the noise, who can hold to the truth that in all the disorder there is still a hidden order, and if they can see it, they can shape it. And that's where real power lives. Pressure in everyday life often feels sharper because it's personal. It's not just about performance, it's about relationships, security, reputation, and the way you see yourself. You can't simply walk away from it. It's tied to the things you care about most. That's why the stakes feel so high, even when the rest of the world doesn't notice. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." The moments of pressure you face every day are these points of contact where you and your circumstances collide. The transformation, good or bad, depends on how you meet them. Think about the times where the smallest triggers have sparked the biggest reactions. An offhand comment from a colleague that lingers in your mind for hours. A look from a loved one that shifts the entire tone of the evening. These are pressure points, and they work like magnifying glasses, making small moments feel enormous. Your ability to stay calm here is no less important than in the big dramatic scenes we imagine when we think of pressure. In fact, it may be more important because these are the moments that repeat. You face them not once in a lifetime, but again and again, day after day. And if you're not careful, they shape who you become without you even realizing it. What makes everyday pressure so tricky is that it often catches you off guard. You wake up expecting a normal day, and then something shifts. A meeting gets moved up. An email arrives with news that changes the plan. A conversation takes a turn you didn't anticipate. Your mind scrambles to keep up, and in that scramble, it's easy to lose the clarity you had a moment before. That's when reaction slips in, when you say the thing you wish you hadn't, or make the choice that feels right in the moment but wrong in hindsight. The pressure didn't just test your patience, it tested your ability to steer your own mind when you weren't expecting to need to. It's worth remembering that pressure doesn't always come from conflict or bad news. Sometimes it's hidden in good opportunities, the promotion you've been working toward but now must prove you can handle, the new relationship that's exciting but requires you to show up in unfamiliar ways, the personal goal that demands consistency when your motivation dips. Even positive change carries its own version of pressure, because it still asks you to rise to a challenge and to hold steady when your instincts want to rush or retreat. The calm you build in these everyday situations becomes the foundation for handling bigger challenges later. If you can stay composed when a meeting runs off track, you're more likely to stay composed when your entire project is on the line. If you can choose your words carefully in a small disagreement, you'll have more control when the conversation could alter the course of a relationship. Every minor test you pass strengthens the mental muscle that will hold you up in the moments that truly matter. Marcus Aurelius captured this truth when he said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacles in your daily life aren't just inconveniences, they're the very things that can prepare you for the weight of greater responsibility. But preparation doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you decide that every moment of pressure, no matter how small, is worth meeting with intention. That doesn't mean you have to move through life in constant vigilance. It means you develop habits that naturally anchor you when the ground shifts. Slowing your breath when you feel your chest tighten, asking one more question before assuming you understand, taking a moment to check your tone before replying. These actions may seem minor in isolation, but over time, they form a pattern of response that protects you from being swept away by sudden change. And this is where everyday pressure becomes a gift in disguise. It offers you more practice than any staged challenge or high-profile test ever could. Because the truth is, life isn't made up of a few huge moments. It's made up of thousands of small ones. If you can navigate those with calm and clarity, the big ones will feel like an extension of what you've already mastered. By the time the spotlight finds you, whether in your career, your relationships, or your personal journey, you'll already know how to keep your mind from drowning in the noise. You'll already know how to stand in the middle of uncertainty without losing your footing. Carl Jung also reminded us, "The world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you." Everyday moments of pressure are the world asking you again and again, who are you in this moment? Your response to that question, not just once but over and over, becomes your answer. And the more you choose with clarity instead of reacting in haste, the more that answer becomes the kind of person you want to be. So while it's easy to see everyday pressure as an annoyance, something to endure until you can relax again, it's better to see it as the proving ground it really is. Every tense meeting, every uncomfortable conversation, every surprise decision, these are not just interruptions. They're opportunities to practice keeping your mind steady when it matters most. Because if you can win here in the small, unglamorous moments, you're already training for every stage, every spotlight, and every storm that lies ahead. No one enters the world already knowing how to hold their ground in a storm. Calmness isn't a gift that some people are born with while the rest are left to struggle. It's built, shaped through effort, tested in real moments, and strengthened over time. It's no different from any other skill. You wouldn't expect to play the piano without practice, or run a marathon without training. The ability to stay calm under pressure works the same way. It's a muscle in the mind, and like every muscle, it grows only when you work it. The trouble is, most people expect composure to appear magically when the moment calls for it, not realizing that if they haven't trained it in the quiet, it won't be there in the chaos. Training calmness starts with awareness. You can't control what you don't notice. Every time your voice rises, your heart pounds, or your thoughts race, that's your signal. These are the moments that invite you to step back and observe yourself instead of being swept along. This awareness is only the foundation. From there, you need deliberate practice, small, repeated actions that strengthen your mental control. It can be as simple as taking 3 slow breaths before answering a question, or pausing to consider someone else's perspective before defending your own. These moments might feel insignificant, but they're the repetitions that build your strength. Just as a runner builds endurance by adding miles a little at a time, you build resilience by adding moments of patience, reflection, and deliberate choice into your day. The beauty of treating calmness as a skill is that you stop seeing it as something fixed. You realize that every stressful encounter is a training session. The long line at the store becomes a lesson in patience. The meeting that runs late becomes a chance to practice control over frustration. The unexpected change in plans becomes a drill in flexibility. What once felt like irritations now become opportunities to refine your ability to keep your center. This shift alone is transformative because it turns life into a constant living classroom for composure. It's also important to understand that building calmness doesn't mean shutting down emotions. It's not about becoming cold or detached. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about feeling everything fully while still choosing your response. Calmness gives you access to that power. It doesn't remove emotion. It simply ensures that emotion is guided by thought rather than allowed to run wild. When you train this way, you stop fearing your feelings because you know they won't control you. Like any skill, the training isn't always comfortable. You'll find yourself wanting to react, to rush, to cut corners. That's where discipline comes in. The work is often quiet and unseen, happening in moments no one applauds, when you bite back a sharp comment, when you walk away from a pointless argument, when you choose to listen instead of interrupt. These are the mental push-ups, the slow repetitions that seem small, but add up to a kind of strength others will notice when the stakes are high. And make no mistake, people will notice. Calmness under pressure has a gravity to it. Others can feel it. In tense moments, they'll look to you, not because you always have the answers, but because you don't lose yourself in the uncertainty. This is why training your calm is worth the effort. It doesn't just change how you handle your own life. It changes the way you influence the people and situations around you. Your steadiness becomes a reference point for others, a reminder that chaos doesn't have to dictate the outcome. Of course, training calmness means preparing before the storm arrives. You can't wait until you're in the middle of a crisis to start building the skill. It has to be part of your daily life, woven into your routines, meditation, journaling, deep breathing, mindful walking. These are all ways to practice stillness when nothing is demanding it. They're the equivalent of sharpening your tools before you need them. By the time the pressure comes, you're not scrambling to figure out how to steady yourself. You've already done the work. When you know you can meet life's tests without losing control, you carry a quiet confidence that no one can give you and no one can take away. You've proven it to yourself in 100 small ways before the big ones ever arrived. The process is never truly finished. Just like a musician keeps practicing or an athlete keeps training, you'll continue refining your calm for as long as you live. There will be days you slip, moments you wish you'd handled differently, but each one is simply another repetition, another chance to strengthen the muscle. Over time, you'll see the difference in the way you speak, the way you decide, the way you carry yourself when the pressure is on. You'll feel it in the way you no longer rush to match the chaos around you, but instead slow it down just by your presence. In the end, calmness as a trained skill is one of the most valuable investments you can make in yourself. It pays back not only in the quality of your decisions, but in the way you experience life. You stop being thrown around by every wave of circumstance, and instead, you learn to navigate. You become more intentional, more grounded, and more capable, not because the world has become easier, but because you've made yourself stronger. And that strength, built one deliberate choice at a time, becomes the foundation you stand on, no matter how high the pressure rises. Your breath is the one constant you carry with you from the moment you arrive in this world until the moment you leave it. It's so familiar, so automatic, that most of the time you forget it's even there. Yet within that quiet rhythm lies one of the most powerful tools you'll ever have for regaining control over your mind and your body. When chaos begins to close in, when your thoughts race and your chest tightens, your breath is the switch that can pull you back from the edge. You don't have to escape the room, solve the problem instantly, or even speak a word. All you have to do is breathe, slowly, deeply, deliberately, and the tide begins to turn. There's a direct line between your breath and your nervous system. When you're under pressure, your body defaults to shallow, rapid breathing, sending the signal that danger is near. Your heart beats faster, adrenaline surges, and your mind locks into survival mode. It's a chain reaction designed to help you fight or run, but in most modern situations, neither is what you need. This is where conscious breathing becomes more than just air in and air out. It becomes a way to tell your body, "I'm safe." Carl Jung once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Your breath is one of the simplest and most immediate ways to change yourself in the moment, shifting your inner state, even if the outer one remains the same. Slow, deep breaths work like a counter-signal to panic. When you inhale fully, hold for a moment, and exhale slowly, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your body responsible for rest, recovery, and clarity. This isn't theory, it's biology. Navy divers, elite athletes, and even surgeons in the middle of complex operations use breath control to keep their hands steady and their minds clear. They know that in high-stakes situations, the breath is an anchor. No matter how turbulent the water, the anchor holds you in place. One of the simplest and most effective techniques is what's often called box breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold again for 4, and repeat. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but it can reset your entire system in less than 2 minutes. It's not magic. It's a deliberate interruption of the stress loop, giving your mind the space it needs to start thinking again instead of just reacting. In those few measured breaths, the fog begins to lift, and the options you couldn't see a moment ago start to appear. The beauty of breathwork is that it's always available. You don't need special equipment, the right environment, or anyone else's permission. You can use it in the middle of a tense conversation without anyone noticing, or before you walk into a meeting that could change your career. You can use it when you're lying awake at night, thoughts spinning, or when you feel yourself reaching the breaking point in your day. Your breath is portable power, tucked away in plain sight. It's also a reminder that control doesn't have to come from force. You don't have to dominate every situation or push harder to find your balance. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is soften, ease into a slower rhythm, open your lungs fully, and let your breath reset you from the inside out. This isn't about pretending the stress isn't there. It's about creating enough space between the stimulus and your response that you can choose your next move with intention. Every deep, slow breath is a reminder that you don't have to match the pace of the chaos around you. You can create your own pace, your own rhythm, and in doing so, you take back control of the only thing that truly belongs to you, your state of mind. Over time, training yourself to return to the breath in moments of tension changes more than just those isolated situations. It rewires your default response to stress. Instead of leaping straight into panic or irritation, your first instinct becomes to steady yourself. It's like building a muscle. You may not notice the strength growing day by day, but when the heavy weight comes, you'll feel it. Calmness under pressure won't just be something you aim for, it will become part of who you are. Returning to your breath is a way of looking inward, of finding clarity at the source. You stop chasing control in the unpredictable world outside and find it in the quiet, steady rhythm within. That clarity is what allows you to make better decisions, to speak with more confidence, to lead yourself, and sometimes others, through the fire without being consumed by it. The next time you feel the pressure building, remember that you already have the tool you need. You don't need to be anywhere special. You don't need anyone's help. You don't even need more than a few seconds. Just slow your breath, deepen it, and notice how the ground feels more solid beneath your feet. Notice how the panic loses its grip, how your thoughts begin to line up again. From there you can choose, not because the world suddenly got easier, but because you made yourself steadier. In the end, your breath is more than survival. It's mastery. It's the bridge between chaos and clarity, between impulse and intention. The more you use it, the more natural it becomes, until it's not just something you turn to in moments of crisis, but a way of moving through the world. And when you live that way, you stop waiting for calm to arrive. You carry it with you in every breath you take. The way you see a problem shapes everything about how you deal with it. Two people can face the exact same situation, and one will see it as the end of the road, while the other sees it as a path to something better. The difference isn't in the facts, it's in the framing. Problems feel heavy, immovable, final. They trap you in a mindset where you're just trying to survive. Challenges, on the other hand, feel like something to engage with, to learn from, to overcome. They carry a sense of movement, of possibility. The facts may be the same, but the label changes the story you tell yourself, and the story you tell yourself changes the outcome. This is where the art of mind reframing comes in. It's not about pretending everything is fine or denying reality. It's about choosing the angle from which you see it. Carl Jung once said, "It all depends on how we look at things, and not how they are in themselves." You may not have the power to change what has happened, but you always have the power to decide how you will interpret it. That interpretation can either trap you in fear and frustration or open a door to clarity and action. When you see something as a problem, your mind tends to close off. It's like walking into a room and seeing only locked doors. You feel stuck, helpless, and the energy you have is spent trying to figure out how to escape. But when you reframe it as a challenge, the locked doors become puzzles to solve, opportunities to get creative, and moments to grow stronger. The situation hasn't changed, but the energy you bring to it has, and that energy is what makes the difference between giving up and moving forward. Reframing starts with the questions you ask yourself. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" you shift to, "What can I learn from this?" That single change moves you from a place of victimhood to a place of agency. Problems happen to you, but challenges are something you meet head-on. This is more than just positive thinking. It's a practical way of breaking the mental patterns that keep you stuck. Marcus Aurelius captured this mindset when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When you train yourself to see the obstacle as part of the path rather than a block to it, you turn resistance into fuel. Of course, reframing doesn't make difficulties easy. It doesn't erase the frustration, disappointment, or even pain you might feel. Those emotions are real, and they need to be acknowledged. But when you've accepted them, reframing gives you a reason to keep going. It offers a perspective where the struggle isn't meaningless. It's part of something bigger you're working toward. That shift can be the difference between quitting and finding the next step forward. Think about a time you failed at something that mattered to you. In the moment, it probably felt like proof that you weren't good enough, or that the opportunity was lost forever. But if you look back, you might see that failure taught you something you couldn't have learned any other way. Maybe it sharpened your skills, redirected your focus, or prepared you for something even more important. That's reframing at work, the ability to take an experience that once felt like a dead end and see it as part of the road that led you here. The mind resists this at first because it clings to certainty. It wants clear answers, and problems offer those. This is bad. I can't fix it. End of story. Challenges are messier. They leave space for the unknown, for possibility. That space can feel uncomfortable, but it's where solutions live. Reframing is a choice to step into that space, to accept uncertainty as part of the process rather than a reason to stop. Jung also wrote, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Seeing challenges instead of problems is exactly that. It's choosing what you will become through the experience rather than letting the experience define you. One way to practice reframing is to deliberately change the language you use. Instead of saying, "I'm stuck," try, "I'm figuring it out." Instead of, "This is impossible," try, "This will take some work." Language isn't just a reflection of how you feel, it shapes how you think. The words you use create mental pathways, and the more you use words of movement and possibility, the more your brain looks for ways forward instead of reasons to stop. Another practice is to mentally zoom out. When you're right up against a problem, it can take up your whole field of vision. But if you step back and look at it from a wider perspective, over the course of a year, 5 years, or even your whole life, you often see it differently. Something that feels overwhelming now might later be a turning point, a story you tell about how you learned, adapted, and grew. That zoomed-out view doesn't make the present easy, but it can give you the patience to navigate it without losing yourself to frustration. Reframing also has a way of protecting your energy. Problems drain you because they keep you locked in resistance. You're pushing against something that feels immovable. Challenges, however, draw you into action. They give you something to work toward rather than something to fight against. The mental and emotional shift is subtle, but it changes everything about how you engage with the situation. You move from defense to offense, from waiting for the problem to end to actively shaping your role in it. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. At first, you'll have to remind yourself to reframe, catching the moment when you label something a problem and deliberately changing that label. Over time, it will happen automatically. You'll notice that fewer things feel like walls and more things feel like doors, even if those doors are heavy and take effort to open. That's the quiet power of reframing. It doesn't make life easier, but it makes you stronger. In the end, the art of mind reframing isn't about denying reality. It's about reclaiming your role in it. It's about remembering that the meaning of an event is not fixed, and that your perspective is the lens through which its impact will be felt. Problems close you off. Challenges open you up. The more you choose the latter, the more you build a life where even the hardest moments carry within them the possibility of something worth moving toward. And when you can see that possibility, you're already halfway to finding the way through. When life throws something unexpected at you, the first instinct is often to resist it, to see it as an intrusion, something that shouldn't have happened. The mind looks for reasons, for someone to blame, and it often lands on that familiar heavy question, why me? It's a question loaded with frustration, fear, and sometimes even despair. It turns the situation into something personal, as if the universe has singled you out. But while it may feel natural in the moment, that question keeps you anchored in a place where you have no power. You can't change what's already happened, and asking, why me, rarely moves you forward. It just circles the pain. Now imagine shifting the question entirely. Instead of, why me, you ask, what can I learn from this? The energy changes instantly. One question keeps you stuck in the past, the other points you toward the future. One makes you a passive recipient of whatever life hands you. The other makes you an active participant in your own growth. This isn't about pretending you're grateful for every difficulty. It's about refusing to let those difficulties pass without taking something from them. The why me mindset often feeds a cycle of resentment. You replay the situation over and over, searching for fairness where there is none. But life isn't built to be fair, it's built to be unpredictable. And unpredictability is a brutal teacher, but a powerful one. When you shift to, what can I learn from this? You stop resisting the fact that it's happened and start asking how to turn it into something useful. That doesn't mean you approve of it or enjoy it. It simply means you refuse to waste it. This shift is not easy in the moment, because why me offers comfort in its own way. It says, this is wrong and you have the right to be upset. And sometimes you do. But staying there too long is like standing in the rubble of a collapsed bridge. You're not getting to the other side by staring at it. What can I learn from this? Is the blueprint for building something new. It pulls your focus toward action, toward meaning, toward a reason to keep moving even when you're hurting. There's a kind of quiet power in people who can make that shift. They're not immune to pain or frustration, they feel it all, but they refuse to let it be the end of the story. They treat every experience, good or bad, as raw material for who they're becoming. Think about the setbacks you faced, the job that slipped away, the relationship that ended before you were ready, the opportunity that never materialized. In the moment, each one probably felt like a door slamming shut. But if you look closely, you'll find that many of those doors were pointing you toward another path, one you might not have chosen if you'd stayed where you were. That's the essence of learning from the moment. You start to see patterns, to recognize how each challenge shaped the skills, the resilience, or the clarity you now have. This isn't about forcing a silver lining onto every cloud. Some situations are devastating, and their lessons may not reveal themselves for a long time, but the commitment to look for them, no matter how far into the future you have to go, is what keeps you from being defined by the worst thing that's happened to you. Jung also reminded us, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Asking, what can I learn from this, is a way of looking inward, of finding a thread of meaning that no one else can hand you. The question works because it changes the role you play in the story. Why me casts you as the victim. What can I learn turns you into the student, and a student can grow, adapt, and eventually thrive. This doesn't mean you ignore injustice or pretend that pain doesn't hurt. It means you claim ownership over the one thing no one can take from you, how you respond. That choice is yours, and it's the foundation for any real change. It's worth practicing this shift in smaller moments, so it's there when you need it most. When a meeting doesn't go your way, ask what you can take from it to improve next time. When a plan falls through, look at what it reveals about your flexibility. When someone's words sting, consider what they might be showing you about your own boundaries or self-perception. Each time you do this, you're training yourself to reach for the better question, even when your first instinct is to complain or dwell. Over time, this habit changes the way you experience life. Challenges become less of a dead end and more of a detour. Failures lose some of their sting because you know they carry value, even if it's not obvious yet. You become less fearful of change because you trust yourself to extract meaning from whatever comes. That trust is worth more than any guarantee of an easy path. And here's the most surprising part. When you ask, what can I learn from this? Often enough, you start to realize that the hardest moments are often the ones that taught you the most. They forced you to confront truths you might have avoided. They pushed you to develop strengths you didn't know you had. They revealed what actually matters to you, stripping away everything that doesn't. This is the quiet gift of reframing, not as denial, but as deliberate meaning-making. So, when the next difficulty comes, and it will, pay attention to the question you ask first. Notice the instinct to say, "Why me?" and then challenge yourself to take it one step further. Ask the question that points you forward, not backward. Because in that question lies the possibility of turning any moment, no matter how painful, into a building block for the person you're still becoming. And once you start living that way, no experience, good or bad, ever truly goes to waste. Patience is one of those virtues everyone praises, but few truly practice. It's easy to talk about staying calm when the world is moving slowly, when there's no pressure, no deadline, no confrontation. But real patience isn't tested in peace, it's built in it. It's built in the small, quiet moments when no one is watching, when your mind wants to rush, but you choose to wait. Those moments might seem unimportant, but they're the training ground for how you'll respond when life decides to get loud. Calmness in a crisis is not a trick you pull out of nowhere. It's the result of habits you've been building without fanfare. Every time you let a conversation breathe instead of jumping in to fill the silence, you're strengthening your control. Every time you wait an extra day before sending that message you wrote in frustration, you're giving your reasoning mind more power than your emotions. Every time you resist the urge to take the fastest route and instead take the right one, you're conditioning yourself to see beyond the instant. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Time is like a river made up of the events which happen, and its current is strong. No sooner is a thing brought to sight than it is swept by, and another takes its place." Patience is learning to watch that river without feeling like you have to grab every passing branch. The challenge is that our world trains us in the opposite direction. Everything is instant. We get answers in seconds, products in hours, entertainment in a tap. Waiting feels unnatural, almost wrong. That's why patience has become a form of power. In a society addicted to immediacy, the one who can wait, observe, and act only when the time is right has a clear advantage. They're not pulled by the same currents as everyone else. They're deliberate, grounded, and far less likely to make decisions they'll regret. Patience isn't about inaction. It's about timing. It's the archer who holds the bow steady, waiting for the exact moment when the wind shifts in their favor. It's the leader who lets the room speak before making their move. It's the person who listens long enough to hear what's really being said beneath the words. Carl Jung noted, "Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. In the same way, action gains its meaning when balanced by restraint. Patience gives your choices weight because they are not rushed, they're considered. This kind of patience can't be faked in the moment. You can't expect to be unshaken when everything is on the line if you've never practiced holding yourself steady in the smaller tests. Impatience is like a muscle. If you feed it every day, it will overpower you when the pressure rises. But patience is a muscle too, and the more you work it, the stronger it becomes. It's built in the times you choose to listen instead of interrupt, to think instead of react, to breathe instead of lash out. These moments seem insignificant at the time, but they're the quiet drills that prepare you for the high-stakes moments where calmness isn't optional, it's essential. And patience doesn't just protect you from bad decisions, it gives you clarity. When you're not rushing to fix everything immediately, you can see the bigger picture. You start to notice patterns, to understand the root of problems instead of just their symptoms. You see that many situations resolve on their own if you give them space. This isn't passivity, it's strategy. It's knowing that some doors open not by force, but by waiting for the right key. Seneca said, "No great thing is created suddenly." That's as true for personal strength as it is for anything you hope to build. Training patience in everyday life also makes you harder to provoke. People who lack patience are easy targets. Push them a little and they'll give you exactly the reaction you were hoping for. But someone who has practiced patience isn't easily pulled into someone else's storm. They can stand still in the wind and wait for it to pass. That steadiness becomes part of who they are, and it's felt by everyone around them. In tense moments, others instinctively look to the one who is still composed, still thinking, still breathing. There's also a deeper truth here. Patience changes your relationship with time. Instead of seeing it as an enemy you're racing against, you start to see it as a partner. You learn that most meaningful things, trust, skill, wisdom, are only earned with it. Patience teaches you to respect the process, to understand that rushing often means repeating the same lesson later because you skipped it the first time. The irony is that patience, which seems like slowing down, is often the fastest way to where you want to go because it keeps you from making costly mistakes. It's worth noticing that many of history's strongest figures were not just bold, they were patient. They knew when to act, but they also knew when to wait. They understood that a rushed move could undo months or years of preparation. And they learned that the confidence to wait comes from knowing you can handle whatever happens in the meantime. Patience is not passively enduring, it's actively preparing, observing, and strengthening your position while you wait for the right moment to strike. Building this into your daily life doesn't require dramatic gestures. It's about small, repeated acts of restraint. It's choosing to pause before replying. It's letting someone finish their point, even when you think you already know what they're going to say. It's slowing your breath when you feel it quicken. These are the small weights you lift to build the larger muscle of calm. Over time, these choices accumulate into a level of mental strength that can't be shaken by sudden noise or pressure. When life eventually gets loud, and it will, you'll find that the patience you've built in silence is what keeps you steady. You won't be scrambling to find calmness because you'll already have it, ready to be applied. You'll respond with clarity, with control, and with a sense of timing that makes your actions more effective. And in that moment, you'll realize that patience is not just a virtue, it's a weapon. One you've been sharpening every day, quietly, while the world rushes past. Calmness under pressure isn't something you can improvise. It's not a trick you pull out in the middle of a crisis like a hidden card up your sleeve. By the time the storm hits, you will always default to the habits you've been practicing. If those habits are rooted in panic, overreaction, or avoidance, that's exactly what will surface. But if you've trained for composure, if you've built the reflex to pause, to think, to breathe, then when the world around you is shaking, you'll find yourself steady. You don't wait to learn how to swim when you're already drowning. You train while the water is calm. The mistake many people make is believing that calmness will come to them naturally when they need it most. But the truth is, chaos strips away the luxury of learning in the moment. It speeds everything up, compresses time, and leaves no room for trial and error. Just like an athlete preparing for a race, your mind and body need rehearsal. Every deliberate act of self-control in the small, low-stakes moments is a form of training for the bigger ones. Preparation for mental composure is not dramatic. It happens in ways most people overlook. It's in the moment you choose to let someone finish speaking, even when you're eager to respond. It's in the decision to take a slow breath before replying to a frustrating email. It's in holding your ground when plans change unexpectedly instead of letting irritation take over. These are not just good manners, they are mental repetitions, the push-ups for your patience, the practice swings before stepping into the arena. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Wrestling requires you to expect resistance at all times, to train your body and mind to respond fluidly under pressure. You can't expect to master that response without countless hours of practice. Similarly, if you wait until you're in the middle of life's heaviest blows to try to find your balance, you're already behind. Calmness is a skill sharpened in advance, not a miracle that appears on demand. The beauty of training before the storm is that it rewires your instincts. At first, you have to consciously remind yourself to slow down, to breathe, to choose your words. But with repetition, those responses become automatic. When pressure rises, you no longer have to tell yourself to be calm. You simply are. This isn't because you've erased emotion, it's because you've taught yourself to stay functional in its presence. The storm still comes, but you meet it with the same rhythm you've been practicing all along. There's also another benefit: preparation shrinks fear. Uncertainty is what makes chaos so unsettling. When you don't know how you'll respond, the unknown becomes a source of anxiety. But when you've trained, when you've run the mental drills and practiced composure in smaller situations, you carry a quiet confidence into bigger ones. You know you can handle the discomfort because you've handled versions of it before. That familiarity is what allows you to think clearly when others freeze. Think of a firefighter. They don't wait until the first building is burning to learn how to use their equipment. They run drills. They practice entering smoke-filled rooms. They simulate high-pressure scenarios until their reactions are second nature. When the real emergency arrives, there's no time for hesitation. They act with precision because they've already been there 100 times in training. Your mind works the same way. The drills you run in everyday life, pausing before reacting, staying steady when provoked, speaking with care in tense moments, are what make you ready for the fires you can't predict. The hard truth is, the storm will come whether you prepare or not. Life doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It will throw situations at you that demand clarity, restraint, and decisiveness. The only question is whether you'll meet those situations as someone who's been training for them, or as someone trying to figure it out on the spot. One approach leaves you in control, the other leaves you at the mercy of the moment. Training for calm doesn't require hours of meditation or isolated retreats, though those can help. It requires using daily life as your practice field. Every inconvenience is a chance to build patience. Every disagreement is an opportunity to strengthen self-control. Every unexpected change is a rehearsal for adaptability. If you approach life this way, then by the time the real pressure hits, you're not scrambling to find composure. You're stepping into a role you've been playing all along. And that's the essence of being prepared for chaos. It's not about hoping the storm will be gentle. It's about making sure you are strong enough, steady enough, and practiced enough that it doesn't matter how hard the wind blows. You've already been training in calmer weather, building the muscle that will keep you upright when everything else starts to sway. That's the quiet advantage of preparation. It doesn't just ready you for the storm. It changes who you are when it arrives. Your mind is no different from your body. It needs regular exercise to stay strong, flexible, and ready for whatever life throws at it. We tend to think of mental clarity as something that either shows up or doesn't, like a lucky mood or a sudden spark of inspiration. But the truth is, clarity is trained. It's built through small, consistent habits, repeated every day until they become part of who you are. Just like you wouldn't expect to run a marathon without months of physical training, you can't expect your mind to perform at its best in high-pressure situations if you haven't been preparing it in the quiet ones. Meditation, visualization, and physical exercise are not luxuries reserved for people with spare time. They're daily drills for mental resilience. They're the equivalent of sharpening your tools before you need to use them. Visualization works differently, but it's equally powerful. It's the mental rehearsal of success, the act of walking yourself through the moments you know will matter before they even arrive. Athletes use it to prepare for game-winning shots. Speakers use it to prepare for the stage. Leaders use it to prepare for the conversations that could change everything. When you visualize, you're teaching your brain to recognize success before it happens. You're showing yourself not just what you want to achieve, but how you'll carry yourself in the process. And when the real moment arrives, it feels familiar. Not because you've been there physically, but because you've already been there in your mind. Physical exercise might seem like it belongs in a different category, but it's deeply connected to your mental state. Movement changes your chemistry. It clears stress hormones from your body, boosts your mood, and sharpens your focus. But beyond the science, there's a lesson in discipline. Every time you show up to train your body, even when you don't feel like it, you're reinforcing the mindset that says, "I follow through." That mindset doesn't just live in the gym, it shows up in your work, your relationships, your decisions under pressure. The beauty of these practices is how they feed into one another. Meditation sharpens your awareness, helping you catch the moment when your focus starts to slip. Visualization gives that focus direction, showing you what to aim for and how to move toward it. Physical exercise strengthens your willpower, making it easier to stick with meditation and visualization even when life gets busy. Together, they form a feedback loop of clarity, confidence, and control. Each one makes the others more effective, and over time, they change not just how you think, but how you live. The mistake most people make is waiting for a crisis to start these habits. They think they'll meditate when life calms down, visualize when they have a big opportunity coming, or work out when their schedule opens up. But that's like deciding you'll start carrying a shield after the battle begins. These are not someday habits. They're the daily reps that prepare you for the moments you can't predict. The days you feel too tired, too busy, or too distracted to practice are often the days you need it most. At first, these practices might feel awkward or even unnecessary. You might wonder if sitting quietly for 10 minutes or picturing a conversation in your head can really make a difference. But the impact is cumulative. You might not notice it after one session or even 10, but after weeks and months, you'll start to feel it. You'll notice you're less reactive in tense situations. You'll find it easier to focus on what matters and ignore what doesn't. You'll approach challenges with a steadier hand because you've been practicing steady hands every day. Daily mental workouts are how you choose who you're becoming. They're small, deliberate acts that shape your identity over time. They're reminders that your mental state is not a random outcome. It's something you can train, condition, and strengthen just like a muscle. And the more you work at it, the more you'll trust it to hold when the weight gets heavy. It's worth asking yourself, if the biggest challenge of your life arrived tomorrow, how ready would your mind be to handle it? Would you be meeting it with the calm, clarity, and confidence you've been training for? Or would you be scrambling to find those qualities on the spot? The answer depends on what you're doing today, on whether you're treating mental strength as a daily discipline or a wish for the future. These workouts don't require hours. They require intention. 10 minutes of meditation to start your day, 5 minutes of visualizing a goal before you begin work, 30 minutes of physical movement to keep your body and mind aligned. Done consistently, these moments become more than habits. They become part of your foundation. And when life tests that foundation, you'll be ready. In the end, mental clarity is not something you wait for. It's something you build, brick by brick, breath by breath, rep by rep. The people who seem calm and unshaken in the face of uncertainty aren't lucky. They've been training for it every day in ways that no one else sees. You can do the same. Start small, stay consistent, and remember that each time you show up for your daily mental workout, you're not just preparing for a better day, you're preparing for a stronger life. Who you spend time with is not just a matter of preference, it's a matter of influence. The people closest to you don't just share your days, they shape your thoughts, your habits, and even your perception of what's possible. Their energy, whether grounded or chaotic, becomes the atmosphere you live in. You might not notice it at first. Influence is subtle, but over time, you'll find that their ways of thinking seep into your own. Their pace becomes your pace. Their fears and ambitions start to color how you see the world. That's why your environment isn't just the physical space you live in. It's the human ecosystem you choose to exist within. When you surround yourself with people who think clearly, it changes you. They don't get swept up in the noise, and that steadiness is contagious. You see how they approach challenges with focus instead of panic, how they ask better questions instead of rushing to judgment. Slowly, you start doing the same. The opposite is also true. Spend enough time around constant complainers or impulsive decision makers, and you'll find yourself reacting more and reflecting less. This doesn't mean surrounding yourself only with people who agree with you. In fact, one of the healthiest influences you can have is someone who challenges your thinking without tearing you down. People who ask the kind of questions that make you reconsider your assumptions. People who listen fully before responding. People who focus on solutions instead of dwelling on problems. They sharpen you, not by pushing their perspective onto you, but by encouraging you to refine your own. Think about how much of your mindset is shaped not by what you've decided in solitude, but by the conversations you've had, the stories you've heard, the attitudes you've been around. If your circle normalizes negativity, gossip, and avoidance, those things will feel natural to you. If your circle normalizes accountability, optimism, and disciplined action, those will feel natural instead. It's not about being easily swayed. It's about understanding that human beings adapt to their surroundings. You can't help but absorb the emotional climate you spend the most time in. The influence goes deeper than mood. It impacts decision-making. When you're in a group of people who panic at the first sign of difficulty, your instinct in a crisis will likely be to do the same. But if you're around people who stay calm, who collect facts, who consider different perspectives before moving, that becomes your instinct too. Their habits of thought become part of your muscle memory. And in high-pressure moments, muscle memory is everything. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, "You become what you give your attention to." By giving your attention to certain people, you are, in a very real sense, choosing who you will become. It's worth asking yourself, who in your life brings you clarity and who brings you confusion? Who leaves you feeling capable and who leaves you drained? Who talks more about problems and who talks more about possibilities? You don't have to cut ties with everyone who doesn't match the ideal. Life is more complex than that. But you can be intentional about whose voices have the most weight in your mind. Proximity matters, influence matters, and even a slight shift in who you spend time with can have a profound impact on your direction. Strong environments are built on mutual influence. The people who lift you up should also be the people you lift. It's not a one-way street. When you engage with people who inspire you, you naturally want to contribute back to that energy, to bring your own clarity, effort, and integrity to the table. This creates a cycle where everyone gets better simply by being in the presence of each other's best. It's one of the quietest but most powerful forms of growth there is. Of course, it's not always possible to avoid negative or chaotic influences completely. You may have to work with them, live near them, or even share a family with them. In those cases, your task is to make sure you have enough grounding influences elsewhere to counterbalance the pull. You don't need to isolate yourself. You need to anchor yourself. Find the conversations that sharpen your thinking. Spend time with the people who make you want to be more focused, more patient, more courageous. Let that be the dominant tone of your environment, so that when the noise comes, it can't drown you. Sometimes the people who frustrate us are mirrors, showing us patterns we need to break or weaknesses we need to address. The key is to recognize the lesson without letting their behavior set your standard. You can learn from anyone, but you don't have to model yourself after everyone. The company you keep should be chosen for where you want to go, not just where you happen to be now. Over time, you'll notice that your environment shapes not only your mindset, but your ambitions. When you're around people who settle for less, it's harder to keep pushing for more. When you're around people who are striving, improving, and learning, it becomes second nature to do the same. You start measuring yourself not against where you've been, but against where you could be. That's the silent gift of the right environment. It pulls you forward without you having to force it. In the end, the people around you are either reinforcing your best self or feeding the parts of you that keep you stuck. Choosing wisely isn't just about comfort, it's about growth. It's about surrounding yourself with minds that sharpen yours, with energy that steadies yours, with examples that raise your standards. Because just as their energy becomes yours, your energy becomes theirs. And when the right people are shaping your mind, you'll find yourself not just thinking more clearly, but living more intentionally. Your mind is the most valuable space you'll ever own, yet it's also the one most people guard the least. We lock our doors to protect our homes. We insure our possessions. We put passwords on our devices. But the thoughts, beliefs, and emotions that shape our entire life are often left wide open for anyone to influence. Not everyone should have access to that space. Carl Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Protecting your energy begins with looking inside and realizing that your inner state is not public property. It belongs to you, and you decide who gets close enough to leave an imprint. Energy is not infinite. Every thought you entertain, every conversation you have, every person you let into your mental space takes something from you. That's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're surrounded by people who lift you up, challenge you in healthy ways, and keep you focused on what matters, the exchange is worth it. But when you let in constant negativity, manipulation, or drama, it's like leaving a window open in a storm. The damage may start small, a little doubt here, a little distraction there, but over time it erodes your focus, your confidence, and your sense of direction. Protecting your energy doesn't mean isolating yourself from the world. It means becoming intentional about who and what you allow to influence your state of mind. Think of it as setting boundaries in the same way you'd protect your physical health. You wouldn't drink from a poisoned well just because you're thirsty, and you shouldn't take in mental toxins just because they're nearby. Sometimes this means limiting time with certain people. Other times, it means changing the subject, refusing to engage in gossip, or simply walking away from a conversation that drags you into a place you don't want to live. One of the most overlooked aspects of protecting your energy is recognizing that some people will drain it without even realizing they're doing it. It's not always malicious. They might be caught in their own cycle of fear, pessimism, or constant crisis, and without boundaries, their storm becomes yours. You can care about them without becoming consumed by them. That's where emotional discipline comes in, the ability to empathize without absorbing, to be present without being pulled under. This also means paying attention to the subtle ways access to your mind gets granted. Social media, news cycles, casual conversations, these all have the power to shape your mood and your perspective if you consume them without awareness. A headline can spike your anxiety, A careless comment online can stay in your head all day. Protecting your energy means being selective with what you feed your attention to, because attention is the gateway to your mental and emotional state. Every time you give something your focus, you're giving it a seat at the table in your mind. It's important to understand that protecting your energy is not selfish, it's necessary. When you're constantly depleted, you can't think clearly, make good decisions, or show up fully for the people and goals that matter most. You're not cutting people out because you don't care. You're creating the conditions to care better, with clarity and strength. Of course, not every drain on your energy can be avoided. Life will put you in situations where you have to deal with difficult personalities, stressful environments, or challenging circumstances. That's why protecting your energy also means learning to restore it. It's about having practices that bring you back to center when you've been pulled off balance, whether that's time alone, deep breathing, journaling, or spending time with the people who refill your energy instead of taking from it. You can't always avoid the storm, but you can build a place within yourself that stays steady while it passes. There's also a deeper layer to this. Protecting your energy means protecting the beliefs and values that guide your life. When you allow people who don't respect those values to influence you, you risk slowly drifting away from who you really are. It's rarely an overnight shift. It happens in small compromises, in accepting things that once felt unacceptable, in ignoring the voice inside that says, "This isn't you." Guarding your energy means listening to that voice and having the courage to keep it strong, even when it's easier to go along with the crowd. The truth is, you teach people how to treat your mind by how you protect it. If you allow constant intrusion, people will assume your mental space is theirs to fill. But when you set clear boundaries, when you show that your time, your focus, and your emotional bandwidth are valuable, others learn to approach with respect. Protecting your energy sends a message, not just to others, but to yourself. You believe your clarity, peace, and focus are worth defending. In the end, your mind is your most important asset. Everything you create, every relationship you build, every goal you pursue starts there. If it's clouded by the wrong influences, you'll struggle to see clearly or move with intention. But when you protect it, when you choose carefully who and what you let in, you create the conditions for your best self to thrive. And that's not just about avoiding the bad. It's about making space for the good, so your energy is spent building the life you actually want, instead of surviving one you never chose. The storm will come, it always does. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, like clouds building on the horizon you barely notice until the first drop hits your skin. Other times it crashes into your life without warning, ripping apart the calm you thought would last a little longer. The storm can take many forms: a sudden loss, a betrayal, a collapse of plans you'd staked your future on. And when it arrives, it doesn't pause to ask if you're ready. That's why readiness isn't something you find in the moment. It's something you build long before the wind starts to howl. When the storm hits, it exposes everything. All the habits, all the small choices you've made in quieter times become visible in a single moment. If you've trained yourself to stay grounded, to slow your thoughts, to protect your energy, you'll find yourself holding steady even as the ground shakes. But if you've let panic be your default, if you've fed impatience and neglected discipline, the storm will magnify every weakness. There's no avoiding the fact that in the thick of it, you will feel the weight. You'll feel the pull toward fear, the temptation to act recklessly just to feel like you're doing something. That's the moment where your preparation matters most. If you've done the work beforehand, practiced calm in small conflicts, held your focus through minor distractions, built patience when you could have rushed, then you're not scrambling to learn composure on the spot. You're relying on a skill you've already strengthened. Preparation doesn't make the storm any less real. It doesn't take away the difficulty, the loss, or the discomfort. But it changes your relationship to it. You stop seeing it as something purely destructive and start recognizing it as something you can navigate. And this is where resilience is born, not in pretending the storm isn't dangerous, but in knowing you have the tools to survive it without losing yourself. It's worth thinking about what you're building right now before the next storm arrives. Are you cultivating habits that steady you or ones that make you more fragile? Are you surrounding yourself with people who anchor you or with people who will only add to the chaos when things get hard? The answers to those questions aren't abstract. They will be revealed the moment the storm comes. And once it's here, you can't go back and change them. Some people wait for the crisis before they start thinking about how to handle it. They assume they'll rise to the occasion when the time comes. But the truth is, we don't rise to the occasion. We fall to the level of our preparation. That's why the daily work matters so much. Every time you choose to take a breath before reacting, every time you decide to listen longer than you speak, every time you stay steady instead of getting swept into someone else's drama, you're building the strength you'll need later. It doesn't feel heroic in the moment, but it's those small acts of discipline that determine whether you'll stand tall or be swept away. There's also an honesty that comes with surviving storms. Once you've been through one, you realize that nothing is truly permanent. Not the comfort, not the pain, not the safety, not the danger. Everything moves. The storm teaches you that. And if you pay attention, it also teaches you that you are capable of enduring more than you thought. Each one leaves you with a deeper understanding of your own capacity to endure, adapt, and rebuild. That's a kind of power no one can hand you. It's earned. Still, there's a trap here. Surviving a storm can make you think you're unshakable, and that overconfidence can make you sloppy in your preparation. You start thinking you don't need to keep practicing patience, protecting your energy, or surrounding yourself with strong influences. But storms are unpredictable, and the next one might be different from anything you've faced before. Complacency is just as dangerous as panic. True readiness is quiet, consistent, and humble. It's the awareness that no matter how steady you've been in the past, the next challenge will still require your best. When the skies are clear, it's easy to forget the storm is coming. It's easy to get caught up in comfort, to let your habits slide, to tell yourself there will be time to prepare later. But the clear sky is the time to build. It's the time to strengthen the routines that keep you steady, to learn how to control your breath under pressure, to practice reframing problems into challenges. It's the time to decide who and what you'll allow into your mind, so that when the wind starts to rise, you're not fighting battles inside yourself on top of everything else. And when the storm finally comes, you won't be wondering whether you're ready, but whether you can remain yourself in the middle of it. And if you've built that, the storm stops being the end of something and becomes the beginning of the next chapter, one you're ready to write. When everything around you starts spinning out of control, the calm mind becomes magnetic. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room or the one making the biggest promises. It's about being the steady presence when everyone else is unraveling. In the noise of panic, people instinctively look for someone who isn't swept away by it. They gravitate toward the person whose voice doesn't shake, whose decisions aren't rushed, whose presence feels like an anchor. Calmness under pressure is rare, and anything rare becomes valuable. When the world is losing its head, that rare steadiness makes you the one people follow, trust, and depend on. This kind of calm isn't passive or detached, it's active. It's the quiet confidence of someone who sees clearly when others see only chaos. A calm mind is built on that truth. It doesn't deny that problems exist. It simply refuses to inflate them into something bigger than they are. This is why calm people often seem to move slower in a crisis, but their pace isn't hesitation, it's precision. They're weighing options while others are reacting, choosing the right move instead of the first one that comes to mind. In high-pressure moments, speed without clarity is dangerous. Rushed decisions create more problems than they solve. The calm mind has an advantage because it can see the bigger picture, while others are locked into tunnel vision, focused only on the immediate threat. Calmness allows you to scan the whole field. You notice opportunities and risks others miss. You conserve energy because you're not burning it on panic. And when you finally make your move, it's deliberate, often surprising those who mistook your stillness for inaction. The calm mind also earns trust because it doesn't amplify fear. In tense situations, emotions are contagious. Panic breeds panic. Doubt breeds doubt. But calmness spreads too, and it spreads in a different way. It slows the room down. It reminds people that thinking is still possible. It gives them permission to breathe. That's why leaders who keep their composure often become the ones people rally behind. It's not just about their decisions, it's about the atmosphere they create, one where others can think clearly as well. There's also an authority that comes with calmness. When you're the person who can hold your ground in difficult moments, others begin to see you differently. They remember the times you didn't flinch, the moments you stayed present when others checked out. That track record becomes your credibility. People don't just listen to what you say, they believe it, because you've proven you don't lose yourself under pressure. And in a world that often rewards loudness over wisdom, that kind of credibility is priceless. But here's the thing, calmness is not the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. The calm mind still feels the pressure, still registers the weight of the moment, but it knows how to keep those emotions from hijacking the decision-making process. It's like a skilled pilot flying through turbulence, not because the air has suddenly become smooth, but because they've learned how to keep the plane steady despite it. That steadiness inspires confidence, and confidence inspires followership. When you remain calm, you also protect your own mental resources. Panic is exhausting. It burns through focus, drains patience, and leaves you mentally scattered. Calmness, on the other hand, is sustainable. It keeps your thinking sharp for as long as the situation demands. It allows you to adapt without losing balance. And in long challenges, projects, negotiations, relationships, being able to think clearly for the entire duration often matters more than any single quick move. The advantage becomes even clearer when you realize that calmness is not common. Most people don't train for it. They go through life letting their environment dictate their emotional state. They react to what happens instead of preparing for it. Which means that if you make calmness a discipline, you'll stand out immediately. And calmness doesn't just serve you in the moment, it shapes your reputation. Over time, people will start to think of you as the one they can count on when things get rough. You become the call they make when the stakes are high, the person they want in the room when the outcome matters most. That reputation opens doors, builds influence, and gives you a kind of quiet power that doesn't fade when the noise dies down. None of this happens by accident. The calm mind is built in the everyday moments when it would be easier to lose your patience, to react without thinking, to join the chaos instead of holding the line. It's built in how you handle minor setbacks, how you treat people when you're frustrated, how you choose to focus on solutions rather than complaints. Every one of those choices is a rehearsal for the bigger stage. And when that bigger stage comes, when the pressure is real and the outcome matters, you won't have to force yourself to be calm. You'll simply step into the role you've been practicing all along. You'll stand in the middle of the storm, aware of its strength but rooted in your own. You'll see the panic around you, but it won't dictate your next move. You'll speak, and people will listen. not because you demanded authority, but because you've already earned it. In the end, the calm mind is the ultimate advantage because it's the rarest one. Anyone can act strong when things are easy. Anyone can talk about composure when they're not being tested. But to remain steady when others are unraveling, to see clearly, decide wisely, and inspire trust when it matters most, that's not just a skill. That's a superpower, and it's one you can choose to build, starting now. Calm isn't something you declare once and then carry effortlessly for the rest of your life. It's not like flipping a switch. It's a choice you make again and again, in moments both big and small, until it becomes a part of who you are. Every day, life will give you opportunities to keep that commitment or to break it. Someone will test your patience. Something will disrupt your plans. A piece of news will try to pull you into panic. And in those moments, the question is always the same. Will you hold the line, or will you hand over your peace to whatever just happened? Staying calm is a practice, and like any practice, it demands consistency. You don't go to the gym once and expect to be strong forever. You don't meditate once and expect to be at peace for the rest of your life. Calmness works the same way. It's a discipline that must be renewed. The challenge is that the choice is often made in moments you barely notice. It's not always during a dramatic confrontation or a life-changing decision. Sometimes it's when someone cuts you off in traffic, or when your phone buzzes with a message that could wait, but you feel the urge to answer right away, or when you're interrupted in the middle of your work and have to decide whether to respond with frustration or with focus. These are the moments that define you, not because they're big, but because they're constant. Each time you choose calm, you're reinforcing a muscle that will be ready when the stakes are high. And make no mistake, there will be times when the stakes are high. The storm will come. The setback will hit. The person who knows exactly how to provoke you will try again. But here's the difference. If you've been practicing, those moments won't take you by surprise. You'll still feel the surge of emotion. Calmness doesn't mean numbness, but you'll know how to ride that wave instead of being thrown by it. You'll have the space to breathe, to think, to decide. That's the power of turning calm into a way of life instead of a one-time reaction. It's also a commitment to yourself that no one else can make for you. You can surround yourself with grounded people, set up supportive routines, even design a peaceful environment, but ultimately, you're the one who chooses how you respond. This doesn't mean you'll never lose your composure. You will. We all do. There will be days when you snap, when you rush, when you let the moment get the better of you. But the commitment shows in what you do next. Do you spiral into frustration, or do you reset and return to center? Calmness is not perfection. It's resilience. It's the ability to come back to stillness again and again, no matter how many times you're pulled away from it. When calmness becomes your default, you stop being as reactive to the world around you. You're no longer at the mercy of other people's moods, mistakes, or opinions. You start living from the inside out instead of the outside in. The benefits of making this a way of life go far beyond surviving hard times. When you carry calm with you, your decisions improve. Your relationships deepen because you listen more and react less. Your work benefits because you think with clarity instead of haste. And perhaps most importantly, you start to trust yourself in a way that's hard to put into words. You know that whatever comes, you'll meet it with steadiness. That trust in yourself changes how you move through the world. Over time, others will notice it too. They'll sense it in the way you speak, the way you handle setbacks, the way you don't match the chaos around you. People will begin to rely on you, not because you're perfect, but because you're steady. In a culture that rewards urgency and noise, the quiet confidence of someone who stays calm is magnetic. It makes you a source of strength for others, even when they can't find it for themselves. But here's the truth: the final commitment to calmness isn't really about anyone else. It's about the relationship you have with yourself. It's about deciding that your peace is worth protecting, that your clarity is worth keeping, that your mind is worth strengthening every single day. It's about understanding that calmness is not a gift you wait to receive. It's a skill you earn through repetition, patience, and choice. So you wake up each morning knowing that the day will test you in ways you can't predict. And you make the decision anyway. You choose to carry calm into every meeting, every conversation, every unexpected turn. You treat each test as another chance to reinforce what you've built. You accept that there will be moments when it's hard, but you also know that the harder the moment, the greater the value of meeting it with steadiness. In the end, staying calm is not about avoiding storms, difficult people, or setbacks. It's about becoming the kind of person who can walk through them without losing yourself. When calm is your way of life, no storm can truly shake you, no person can completely unbalance you, and no setback can define you. You remain grounded, not because the world is gentle, but because you have chosen to be unshaken. And that choice, made day after day, is what turns calmness from a fleeting reaction into an unbreakable part of who you are. No matter where life takes you from here, remember this: calm is your greatest weapon, your truest ally, and your unshakable foundation. Protect it, live it, and let it guide you through every storm. If this message spoke to you, stay with the momentum and watch one of the videos now appearing on your screen. They'll take you even deeper. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal. Your journey to strength and clarity is just beginning.